Welcome to Through the HurriKane. I'm Kathleen Kane, the first woman elected Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Have you ever looked down and seen the pieces of your life on the floor and wondered what happened? You haven't just been through a storm, you've been through a hurricane. Sometimes we think that we'll never have joy, we'll never have love again, we'll never have a normal life again. But Through the HurriKane will teach you that the power of love and resistance and the human mind can do anything. We all experience a hurricane, but the human spirit is indestructible. This is Through the HurriKane. Let's walk through this storm together. Welcome to Through the HurriKane. I'm your host, Kathleen Kane. Every now and then in our lifetime, we hear a story or read an article, and even though it has nothing to do with us, we think to ourselves, somebody's got to do something about this. Our guest was a documentary film producer with a degree in communications. She was producing a story about the 500,000 kids who are in foster care around the United States. What she uncovered made her pause. It then changed her life and the life of thousands of kids forever. And that number is still counting. Leah Stauffer is the founder and CEO of 500,000 Kids. Welcome, Leah.
Thank you, Kathleen. Thanks for having me. Thanks for highlighting this issue. These kids deserve a seat at the table of causes. So I really appreciate you highlighting their plight.
Well, we appreciate you. We heard your story from someone else, and then I looked it up, and it's incredible to me of how you go to do one thing in life, and something stops you and turns you completely in another direction. And speaking of which, you were making a documentary about these children in the foster care in the United States. And tell me what happened during the filming of your documentary.
Yeah, sure. So, and if I can say, even the reason I started the documentary is because I was seeing more on pet adoption than adoption of children. And I love animals. I mean, I'm feeding the squirrels. I mean, I'm really hardcore love animals, but it's not either or, it's and both. Why aren't we talking about foster kids? And why am I seeing more commercials about pet adoption than children are? So a friend said, stop complaining about it, do something. And so with my film background, I'm like, all right, we need to do a documentary and raise awareness that these kids exist, right? And so as I started interviewing caseworkers and agency heads and kids and families and so on, it just became really clear to me I have the ability to see gaps and outpoints, and I started to see gaps and outpoints in the way the system was operating that I know are correctable. Like we can course correct. And I'm like, why isn't this getting done? So I went from documentary film to solution mode, and I went to something called a match party. Yeah. And,
Let me stop you there for 1 second, just because I want everyone to know some of the statistics. I believe that maybe our society thinks that these kids are taken away from these terrible, awful conditions, and they're put into these nice, safe, clean, nurturing foster homes. And these kids then grow up to be, happy and healthy and safe. I think that that's probably what we want to believe, but I want you to tell us what the problem is first before we go to the solution. So tell me what the statistics are on how many kids are actually put into this system every year.
Okay, so I love that you asked this question because you're teeing up the solution. You don't even know it. Okay, so the charity is named 500,000 Kids because when I opened the charity, you would see numbers of 600,000, 500,000, 450,000. So it would depend on your source, and different agencies report at different times of the year. Year end could be June 30th, year end could be September. So you get these huge swings and variances of numbers. The other thing is counties report their numbers to caseworkers and agencies report their number to the county. The county then reports it to the state. The state then reports it to federal. And so by the time federal gets the numbers, you're talking about typically it was a 2-year lagging time frame of data. So kids are moving home to home every day. So we don't have real data. Now, I will say there has been an improvement, but there's still lagging data just because of the reporting mechanism. So that is one thing,
That's a
everyone.
problem.
Tee that up. Hold that,
Yeah.
because we have that solution handled.
Especially
But
if they're moving every day, like not every day, but you have children moving to different homes every day. I mean, we have trouble
real-time
keeping
data,
track of them.
the,
Yes.
the good news, and to be fair to the system, okay, years ago, maybe this wasn't possible, but now it is. Real-time data. If you and I do a Google Meet and I change a word on the screen, you see it in real time. There's absolutely zero reason we can't have real-time data. Period. End of story. We don't need to do this reporting along the way. The report is called opening your computer and there's data there. You
Yes.
hit print and you have a report. So that's one thing. I know you don't want to talk solution yet, but the numbers, so the 500,000, I named the charity that because I really wanted people to understand. We're talking about a lot of kids here. But here's the thing. The data is not accurate. So if you go on AFCARS right now, if you go on the federal report, they'll say it's like 360,000 children.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing, and I know no one reads footnotes, and I know, but I do because I need to fully understand. And so in footnotes, it'll say they're not counting children with a goal of emancipation. And I read that as,
What on earth does that even mean?
yeah. So they want to be, excommunicated from their families and be independent. That's fine, but that's their goal. It's not in actuality. So you don't, in my estimation, you don't get to not count kids that have a goal of being emancipated. They're still in the system.
Well, they're in the system until they're 18, regardless. They can't just emancipate themselves when they want to. So I don't understand why we
But
would even have that category.
But even if we did, we do allow emancipation. Fine. Once they're emancipated, deduct the number. But not when it's just a goal. That's just sort of like any
right.
kid. They all could
Okay.
say, I have a goal. And then we have 0 kids in foster care.
Yeah.
Makes no sense.
My son wanted to be emancipated at the age of 4, so that's true.
What child doesn't want to be emancipated, particularly as a teenager?
Yeah,
Everybody's signing up for that program.
that's right. That's right.
Right?
Tell me some
So
of the reasons why I get the emancipation and the reporting is so off, which boggles my mind, just like yours. But what are some of the reasons that kids are actually taken out of their homes and put into foster care?
yeah, so lots of reasons. If I could say one more thing about the numbers that's key. The other number that is huge, and that's why I want to make sure I say it so people understand, there's something called hidden foster care. And Stanford reports the hidden foster care, the kids are not, it's cases that are not adjudicated. Let's say they're coming to you to say, hey, you have a poverty issue or a neglect issue or whatever or substance abuse issue. So lots of reasons like that are why kids get removed, and we'll come back to that. But whatever the reason, they say, you know what, but once we adjudicate this and your child's in foster care officially through the court system, it's very hard to get your child back. So what we can do is set up a family safety plan, and it's not on the books, and then they do remove the child, but it doesn't go on the books. Stanford reports there's approximately another 250,000 children in hidden foster care in the U.S. So when AFCARS publishes the 300, like if you Google and look at the 360,000, and the government's very proud of themselves for getting those numbers down, and I hate to be critical because these are the people I need to decide
Your
on our
funding.
solutions.
Right.
They're not funding, but more so the solution because they control the kids. So I hate to be critical, but at this point, this is the reality. Like it's 360,000 plus the 250,000
Okay,
plus
so
the kids with the goal of emancipation. So we don't know the
way
numbers
ahead.
because we aren't tracking real-time data, which makes me insane because it is the starting point of any solution is data.
That is true. That
But
is true.
to answer you on why kids get removed, so a lot of times it's neglect, but we as a society have collapsed poverty and neglect. So you could have a single mother who's got 2-3 jobs. It's more of a poverty issue, but it shows up as neglect because maybe the kids are getting themselves off to school, and maybe she doesn't have a washer, and somebody reports the kids are coming to school with their clothes dirty, and the kids get removed. Or maybe someone stopped by and there's a hole in the ceiling. So, these are real stories. There's a hole in the ceiling. And so they'll remove the kids because of the condition of the home. Or maybe I have one situation, there's a Hispanic family that doesn't even matter. I mean, that part doesn't even matter. It's just they don't have a sofa in their living room. They've got like mattress or whatever. They're removing kids because of the condition of the home. Because I guess if that caseworker decides you have to have a sofa versus, but
quick question though. Quick question.
yeah,
I told you I was going to butt in, and this is one of them.
no, please, yeah.
Who calls the social worker? How does the social worker even get to their house to say you don't have a sofa?
It could be a neighbor. It could be a friend's parent. It could be school. It could be a teacher. It could be
anybody.
Somebody at a store, like that's like the local store if it's a community that knows each other. So, and the other thing about, and I hate to always go back to tech and data, but the thing is, it's very subjective. So you're at the mercy of the caseworker, and so some caseworkers, they have an opinion on what type of family a child should be with or why a child should be. Are there guidelines and boundaries? Yes, but there's a huge amount of subjectivity. And so technology can actually solve a lot of that.
Yeah, and the subjectivity is never good. I mean, anything when it comes to the government, subjectivity should not be in play. We have to have rules that people follow, but we can't have rules that people interpret or make up on their own because
Right.
we just can't operate like that. And that's not the way it works. So I'm glad that you said that because I think that needs to be, that's part of the problem. And you're not being critical. You're just being, factual that that's part of the problem. We can't fix it if we don't know about it. So I agree. I have a quick question though. Back to those 250,000.
I know, it's so alarming. How can you not go back to that?
Where do they go? Where are they?
Oh, they'll do like a kinship. They'll do like a family member or someone, a foster family that they've identified, that is someone that's in their system that they view as an appropriate home for the time being, and that's fine on the one hand. There's aspects of that could be great. Nothing is, but the problem is, if you're not counting the kids. There's such an intersection, and I know we'll talk about it at some point. There's such an intersection with child sex trafficking. And when we are not tracking where every single child is, that makes that entire population completely vulnerable. And when there's 250,000, and again, Stanford's reporting this, if there's another approximate 250,000, that's a lot of kids to not know officially where they are. And there was a story recently, you probably remember it. It was about a month ago. And I was like, I'm saying this all the time. I'm screaming from the rooftops. There's not a college campus in this country where the university doesn't know where every single child is, not only during the year, but even on summer break. They're abroad, they're at home. If one child was missing from a college campus, it's a national news story. And then I'm saying it all the time. And then last month or 2 months ago, there was a kid missing from a school down south, and it turns out he was in Japan and was harmed. One boy. That's horrible. But this is happening to foster children every day.
All the time.
In our neighborhood, all the time.
So I am not, I mean, I do love statistics and I do love facts like that. But, and you and I talked about technology, we don't really like it. But even just these first, 14 minutes we've been on, you have convinced me that this data must be correct because if we even allow one child to disappear, we would be going crazy. And my nice little section of Clark Summit here, there was a child missing. We are going to get to that. Let's go back to the foster homes just for a second. I have a few more questions.
Sure.
So we think that they're taken out. You gave us the reasons why they're taken out. It could be mostly poverty, abuse, sometimes the so-called voluntary surrender. It'll be easier to get your kids back if you voluntarily surrender. But is that really voluntary? Not really.
No.
So anyway, tell me about what the actual foster care system looks like. Tell me the number of abuses and there are children who are dying in foster care. And then I also want you to tell me, like, what the conditions are. We're taking them out of poverty. No sofa, hole in the ceiling. What are we putting them into?
Right. So that's the other thing. So when a foster parent, there's a subsidy that they get for that child. So I want to say first, because a couple questions in there. But what I want to say first is like, we could figure out a system where the hole in the ceiling gets fixed, because that 2,000, 2,500 depends on the county, the per diem of that child. By the time you pay the foster parent, you could have got the washing machine and dryer, or you could have fixed the hole in the ceiling. And I'm not saying, I'm not on the politics of all that, but it doesn't make sense to remove a child and create trauma for that family, because that mother may absolutely 1,000% love her child. That's why they're working a couple jobs. And we should be, I think, even though we have solutions on the foster, we're equally committed to keeping families together whenever possible.
Sure.
So I say that first. Statistics on abuse and such, I mean, the biggest statistic that is alarming and upsetting, and it's a crisis, is the 60% CSEC, which is the commercial sexual exploitation of children. CSEC reports that 60% of the children that they rescue out of trafficking, child sex trafficking, which everyone listening, get ready. It's going to be a little bit shocking what I'm going to say. Child sex trafficking is actually the flowery way to say it. These are children. It's actually rape. This is child sex trafficking. It's almost like you can become immune. It's like we're allowing the raping of children. 60% of those kids that CSEC reports rescuing have a history in the child welfare system.
Right.
They report the system, child welfare system, reports more than 20,000 foster children go missing a year. Well,
So
let me just say,
20,000 foster children are missing. No
yes,
one knows where they are. Every year they're gone. They're nobody knows where they have gone to, right? And then now you're also then telling us that 60% of those children are reported. We're not guessing, we're not wondering. We know that 60% of those children have gone to sexual trafficking.
So it's not 60% of, just to be clear, so your audience knows, it's not 60% of those going missing. It's 60% of the kids that CSEC rescues. So they report of the kids that are rescued from child sex trafficking, 60% have a history in child welfare. So, and the 20,000 number is deceiving, because we need to put a big asterisk next to 20,000, because you remember, if we don't know how many kids we have, then you don't know how many are missing. And I don't care if it's the top of the federal government, they don't know for sure. So we throw these numbers around, and 20,000's terrible.
20,000 is disgusting. And
Imagine
so
if it's so much more.
that's the minimum. I mean, it's clearly the minimum, because we don't know what we don't know. So 20,000 is the basement, not the ceiling. And that's horrifying.
Horrifying. Like I said, if one child from a college campus went missing, there'd be, it is literally a national news story.
Yes.
But
so
we ignore this.
Completely. Of those 20,000, most of them, and I was in law enforcement a long time. We dealt with a lot of, say, missing children. I was in the child sexual abuse unit. And then when I was attorney general, we really focused on trafficking, because we now had access to, every state in the country. And we were really a team on this. So,
and I'm going to try to get you looped back in, but go ahead.
Well, thank you. But the 20,000 children, when we say that number of the 60% that are rescued, are reporting this, we're not rescuing them all. And a lot of times law enforcement and everyone else just marks that up to those 20,000, they're just runaways. They're just runaway. We don't know where they are. Bye. But that we can't
And
do that.
sometimes
That's
they
such a
are.
mistake. Sometimes
Sometimes
they
they
are.
are.
For sure, just like sometimes kids should be taken away from their home. Sometimes it is
Right.
really abusive, but we have to focus on the ones that aren't. And we can't just assume that they're all just, quote, runaways and we could just turn our back on them because they're
Particularly
still there.
particularly when you link it to, well, if 60% of kids being rescued overall from child sex or have a history in child welfare, then it is the major pipeline for child sex. So we can't say they're all runaways, because then who are these 60% that are getting rescued that are from child welfare? So obviously we have a crisis and a problem on our hands. And I hate to bring up tech again, but the reality is we have the ability to know what's happening with every single child and every single caseworker and every single family. Like, this is not even hard.
No.
Maybe it was in the past, but it's not now.
No, I would
And
like to throw one more thing in your
yeah,
wheel cog of solutions,
yeah,
always
yeah.
on the law
I
enforcement
have a
side.
pen. Look, I have a pen
Thank
handy.
you.
Go ahead.
Because I don't believe, I think that we're using your tech, right? We get to your tech. We know that they're missing because now we're doing better. We know that they're missing. And that needs to be fully investigated by every law enforcement agency that's there, not just the locals. Even if the locals come up and say, well, we think it's a runaway. And by the way, did you ever hear of like a diagnosis of exclusion? We can't find any other reason. So therefore, we're going to call it this. But that's what runaway seems to be. And we can't do that. We need to say,
Exactly.
no, we need to start with the premise that they have been stolen, they ran away and been stolen, or they have been bought and sold in some way. And that needs to be fully investigated and reported to all levels of the agencies of government.
Exactly. And prevention, to, to me, I'd like, in I spend a lot of time in the anti-trafficking space
Mhm.
because the intersection with foster care is so huge. And I didn't know that when I first started. Our tagline, 500,000 kids, was dedicated to foster children. Now it's dedicated to foster and trafficked children because it's so huge. And I didn't know it was human trafficking is $150 billion global industry. And they are grooming kids and they are going after them on the gaming and the technology. The grooming on technology is out of hand, and we have to fight. These people are not messing around. They are coming after our kids, and they're doing it through technology, and we're fighting it with new programs. Look, we have to fight tech with tech. They're not messing around. And if I'm them, I'm laughing at us
Yes, I
because we
agree.
aren't even we don't even know how many kids we have. Like, we can't even agree to get that done. Like, I can't, don't get me started. I can't. Oh, I
Don't
get
get me
so
started either.
crazy.
I completely disagree. I wanted to throw one more statistic out for the audience because this is also just wild. 70% of the 12 to 14-year-old children who are trafficked are foster children.
Yeah.
70%.
Yeah, because they're so. And I'm going to advocate for caseworkers because caseworkers get blamed for a lot.
Mhm.
And I'm sure I can, there's a lot. When I first started looking into this, I was sort of like, what's up with the caseworker? But here's the thing, what they are up against, they have caseloads of, say, 30 kids when it should be 10 to 12.
Mhm.
So when you're talking about the 70%, it's like, how is a caseworker humanly supposed to be on top of 30 cases when it should be 10 to 12? And they've been handed antiquated systems to work within. And the turnover and the pay, there's no standardized training. It's so they're working. We are not serving our caseworkers. If we would fix our caseworker crisis, that would go a long way to fixing, because these people, for the most part, they have the heart for it. Are there some bad apples? Sure, but few and far between, because people are in this because they care, and we treat them horribly.
Mhm.
Underpaid, overworked,
And
using
systems that
antiquated
don't work.
systems, and nothing standardized, so they're winging it.
Yeah, right. Agreed. Now, let's go back to the actual foster home because
Yeah.
your 500,000 kid foundation does focus on solutions, but they're, like I used to say in the drug trade when I would have to fight for our budget for the attorney general's office. One time they said, well, you want an increase in your budget for law enforcement, right? Then that means that I have to take it off the Secretary of Health because he wants some for treatment. And I said, absolutely not. You need to give it to him too, because we can't fight this just giving it to me and then the other two prongs, education and treatment, fail. It's like squeezing a balloon and then it just goes to one end or the other end. That's not the solution. And so same with you. When you started, you decided we're going to make sure that kids have an easier path for adoption, and we're going to get into that. And then you saw the problem in trafficking. Oh, now we have to deal with that as well because that is under the umbrella of the foster care system. And then, all this not smaller problems, but all of the logistical problems along the way that we'll get to.
Yeah.
So talk to me about foster homes first. There are deaths and abuses in foster homes, correct?
Yes.
And the conditions can sometimes be worse than the home they were taken out of.
Yeah, absolutely. I will say, and this is not unique to Philadelphia, so this is not a slight on Philadelphia. This is happening all over the country. But when we established the CUA system in 2012, there have been more than 70 lawsuits that have settled for conditions in foster homes. So sometimes we're removing a child from one situation and also putting them in a bad situation. And 50 of those cases settled for more than $1 million. Yeah. So we have to also, and we can, so anything I complain, I feel like I'm complaining, but anything I complain about, there are solutions. So that's there is good news here. So anybody who's listening, who's feeling like, oh, this is so depressing, stick with it. There are solutions in this modern age. But I think there's a stat you would be very interested in about the caseworker. There's a study that shows when a child has one caseworker, they have a 74% chance of a successful placement for fostering. When they have a second caseworker due to turnover, that percentage of a successful placement drops to 17%.
Oh, wow.
On a third caseworker, 5%. So if we don't solve the caseworker crisis in this country, nothing's going to change. We can throw hundreds of programs at this. We can throw money at this. We need to course correct the system itself.
Correct. Excellent point. So start with the caseworkers to make sure that the foster homes are better vetted and kids aren't taken away for reasons like you said that we could fix. If I get a cut on my arm, I'm getting it stitched. I'm not having my entire arm amputated. Let's be realistic about this.
And I wouldn't say we're starting with a case where we're actually tackling, and you'll see why when we get to solution conversation, we're tackling the system overall, which handles multiple things. So
wow. Okay. Well, that's not right either. So we're handling the foster home situation, right? Let's go with the solution for that because we have so many other things to get to. What would be a solution for making sure there is better home care for the foster children?
Well, here I can give a shout out to the Administration of Children and Families, our federal government. Alex Adams, who is the appointed by Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's for Health and Human Services, he has like 12 departments from NIH to CDC, et cetera, et cetera. But Administration of Children and Families, ACF, is one of his departments, and Alex Adams runs that. He has a program called A Home for Every Child. And so that is a national, all 50 states have signed on to be part of the Home for Every Child program because his whole effort is to increase the number of beds, wonderful vetted homes and beds for foster children. So that's a really good thing that the government is doing. That's a very good program.
So they're in charge of making sure that there are more homes and better homes. Is that working?
Yes, because for every 100 children, there's only 57 beds. So we have in our phase 3, which, sorry, I neglected to even say, our overall mission is to get 45% of foster children in safe, loving homes, blunting one of the major pipelines of child sex traffickers. and that 45% is not a made up number. 20% of that 40% would populate into what is our phase 3. It's a house parent model that is operating in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania. That is fantastic. They have 3 homes. It's a family style setting with 8 kids. It's the Being Beautiful Foundation homes, and they've got 3 homes for girls, 8 children each, parents. It's great. And we have partnered with them to scale their model. They have served more than 250 children, and we are slated to open 20 homes in our defined pilot region, which I'll wait. If we're going to talk solution, I can tell you our whole 3-phase plan. But those 20 homes will go a long way towards the ACF program, A Home for Every Child. Mm-hmm. But in our plan, we have a defined pilot region of Philadelphia County and the 4 suburban counties around it, Montgomery, Delaware, Chester, and Bucks. Our intention is to show proof of concept on all 3 phases of our plan, including the house parent model, and then do a campaign nationally to attract leaders in other cities to replicate what we've almost franchise style. Yeah, we've documented the how-to. So that's really our plan, and our 3 phases consist of technology and our campaign to attract more families, mm-hmm. and our house parent model, the scaling of the BBF model.
Okay. So the house parent model would be kind of the overflow, the children that you could not find safe, loving homes, foster homes we're talking about, right? Not adoptive homes?
Yeah, so it's the children that are ideal for that model are the children who are like on the fence. They're reaching for a better future. The model is great home, great school district, family style setting. But the children there, you don't actually want the kid who's going to throw a grenade into the family setting, mm-hmm. and there's disruption. It's the kids who are really reaching for a better life and who want that support. So that's why it's 20% that we've identified are appropriate for that model. The other 25% of our 45% is, and again, it's always hard to quote some stats when I know they're like, the reported number is 25% of foster children are eligible for adoption. That means the courts have terminated the parental rights. Fine. So I don't understand, if the courts have terminated the rights and they're never going home and they're going to age out at 18, why aren't they adopted if they want to be? Like, yeah, right. We can do that. To me, that's, I hate to use this term, but I did in corporate America, it's low-hanging fruit. Like, they're eligible for adoption. They're never going home. 50% of kids that age out end up homeless, incarcerated, substance abuse, and government dependent. Let's get them in safe, loving homes immediately.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Go ahead.
I'm going to break us down here.
Yeah.
We have children who are going to foster homes. We want to make them better, more homes available. That we also want to identify the children who are reaching for a better future, meaning that they're at the appropriate age. You know, they don't have any, say, violent tendencies or anything like that, where they can live productively in a group housing. And your solution for that is to have the big, beautiful home model, scale it out, which means scale it out means that you want to replicate it. You have to first show its success, which I think is already being done. You're building it out to 20 more homes, which is amazing. That's an amazing, undertaking. And then you want to replicate it across the country.
Yes. And we won't replicate it. Leaders in other cities will replicate it. We will train them up on how to replicate it. And the 20 homes is not random, so it sounds like it because it's a round number. But it's based on, if you take the number of foster kids reported in the pilot region and you remove 25% of that number for those eligible for adoption, because our goal is to get them adopted. Mm-hmm. And then you take that number that remains, and about 20% of those children are right for this model, and you divide that by 8 children per home, and it equates to 20 homes, including the 3 that exist. Okay. So it's not random.
Quick question. Where do you even find the homes? I looked on your website. Oh, I mean, they're beautiful.
Such a good model. I know. Go ahead.
So where do you find them?
Oh, so realtors, because here's the thing. Here's how this is why this model is a absolute home run for the kids, but it's an absolute home run for everyone else. The counties pay per diem. So there are county contracts set up with Philadelphia County and all the suburban counties. That per diem goes towards the expenses of the home. So you find them by realtors who find great homes. You need at least 5 bedrooms because you need the house parents need their room, and then 4 kids, 2 kids in each room. So 5 bedrooms or more, and you want a great school district. We are designing the urban model for Philadelphia. So that's a separate conversation because there's different considerations with or the urban model than the suburban model. But the suburban model is where we're opening the 20 homes, just to be clear. So you find a house for sale, and then what we're looking to do is attract real estate partners who want to use their asset for good. And on the line item on that per diem money is housing. Okay. So someone can have cash flow from their real estate investment, but they're using their investment for good.
So personally, I'm sorry. You're looking for private, not donations, but you're privatizing it in a certain way, right? That the government is putting the money in that they would have spent anyway, and now it's being privatized. And when it's privatized, you will have still the same standards and everything, I assume.
Absolutely. Right? So that's the work behind the scenes. We're creating the operations manual. Larry and Valerie Crabb and Larry Harris have an amazing model. As a matter of fact, Secretary Valerie Arcouche, our head of PA Human Services, has awarded them an award for excellence. Governor Shapiro wrote a beautiful letter endorsing the model. So there's a lot of, and the counties love it. And kids, this is the best. Kids are asking to go there because word is spreading. Like, oh my gosh, it's so great. So that's really different than kids that we're putting in. People won't even believe it. There's such a lack of homes. Kids are being put in juvenile detention centers. Not because they've done anything, because there's no housing.
Yeah. I saw that kids are also being put in the conference rooms of the children and youth services and VHSs, and they're sleeping on these tiny little mats that's just crazy.
And then we're going to be upset with caseworkers who are like literally sleeping in their office with kids.
No, right. I totally agree. Let's talk about there was a certain number of kids who were eligible or available for adoption, but there's also a problem there. You told me this. The problem there is there are a certain number of kids available for adoption. There are a number of parents who are ready and vetted and waiting for an adoptee, but for some reason the system can't get them together. What was your solution for that?
Oh my gosh, this is like the whole enchilada here. So here's the thing. I have case study after case study of families who can't get callbacks. And now imagine if you're a caseworker where you have a caseload of 30 kids and you got, triplets walking in the door and you're triaging all day to find, you don't know where kids are going to sleep that night. When are you calling back the Sanchez family who's been trying to adopt for 5 years, 4 agencies, and they've inquired about 8 kids, but you're the caseworker. You don't even have time to contact the caseworker responsible for those 8 kids because you're supposed to call them or email them. You're triaging. You're not getting to that. But the Sanchez's go, we wanted an older youth, any race. We thought you needed families. What's the problem? People don't understand, well, how come I'm not getting a call back? And so we've got to do a better job with matching because the matching, there's a lot to our tech, but the matching component of our tech matches families with resources. It matches families with children. So it's a tool for the caseworkers to modernize how they work. So imagine now a caseworker opens their computer and it pulls up the Sanchez family and it shows 8 matches and notifications already were sent out. They don't even need to, as they're triaging, the system's working for them. Yes, then they get involved and say, oh, okay, these matches came through. And so the matching component of the tech is critical. The thing I identified though is matching we need to tie, without giving too much away of how it's structured, we basically created a numbering system, a sequence numbering system. So you'll be able to identify when children go missing, when there's no activity on their account. You'll be able to identify how many caseworkers they have. There's a lot of data that's going to be at stakeholders' fingertips that will cause them to be more effective and proactive and preventative. Because our concept is, if we get 45% of kids in safe, loving homes through our technology, that tees up so caseworkers can actually do their job and not have 30 cases. Go ahead.
So your technology, and you developed this, I just want everyone to know, 500,000 kids did develop this.
Yes.
It's the way I understand it, it's almost like an app where parents, first of all, I want you to tell me why you think the app is better than the match party.
Oh,
Tell everyone what a match party is and
okay.
how I feel like degrading it must be.
Yeah, well, that's what got me on the matching tech. And just so you know, when we started with just the matching component I described, and it has expanded far beyond. The tech has evolved because of the trafficking component and the caseworker crisis and everything I identified that I was seeing. I'm like, wait. And so there's more to our tech than maybe we even have published online at this juncture. But I went to a match party originally when I was still just doing the documentary film to raise awareness. And one of the head of the National Adoption Center invited me to view a match party. I'm like, I didn't even know what a match party was. 18 kids. There were going to be 10 families coming that have already been approved. And the 18 kids are eligible for adoption, 13 and above. And it's supposed to be a fun day out in this instance, it was like a game center. And, to see you play with the kids, see if you have chemistry with them, etc. The thing is, I came out of corporate America and I'm like, 18 kids, 10 families showing up. The math doesn't. First of all, our math.
My heart is already breaking for those 8.
I get there. And she said, you can't film, but you can take notes. So I'm like, okay. I get there, 5 families show up. I'm like, so we have 18 kids vying for the attention of 5 families. I'm like, these are teenagers. So it's not like they can't run the math. And now it's like, choose me. I'm what? I'll be fun. I'll be good. I can't. I was like,
Oh my God.
and it's so interesting that social workers, I guess they feel good. In any event, so they separate the kids and the families for just to give them the instructions. So I had to pick, and I went with the family, the adults, and they gave them game tokens and said, if you're interested in one of the kids, here's some tokens. You can play with them. Don't give your phone number out. You don't want to build hope. But all I'm thinking is, well, what if you're the kid that no one plays with? I mean, you notice that. They're coming from a place of trauma, and now we're putting them in this. I'm like, people get married on dating apps. What are we doing? We can do preliminary matching without putting these kids through this.
Yes.
And provide the caseworkers, and in fairness to the caseworkers, their budgets are nil for marketing. So that's why there's 5 families there. Secondly, if they had matching tech, I'm sure they wouldn't do match break, but they don't have that. They're doing the best they can with the system they're handed. So
all right, so we're dinosaurs. So we're dinosaurs with our system but so your app, I'm going to call it an app because that's my level of technology.
Or platform.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Your platform, but it is a computerized platform.
Oh, yeah. Beyond.
So that is going to, number one, combat how we're losing children. And we're going to keep better real-time reporting, but it's also to kind of end the emotional abuse and it's not even effective, these match parties. They're not effective for multiple reasons.
Correct.
And that's what your app would do.
Correct.
I'm sorry.
And no, it's fine. Correct. And it would also provide every stakeholder from the federal government, state, county, agencies, caseworker, a world of dashboards of the data they need to do their job effectively, as well as the anti-trafficking component would work and connect DOJ with, so it would connect justice with the system, because it's the other problem. Everybody's siloed. And so the expansion from the matching came from me realizing one day that a child in let's say in Pittsburgh, let's say the perfect family for them is Ohio. They'll never find each other. They use two different numbering systems. They'll never find each other. We're lucky if they'll find each other across county in Pennsylvania. So that gets handled. The silos go away. Everything is now connected, and then caseworkers can make decisions and use their skills and their brain and their heart to make decisions versus trying to function like we're asking them to have their brain function like a computer. It is completely, again, I'm sorry to say, it's irresponsible from the top, from the federal government to the state. It is irresponsible to put these caseworkers in this position where they are supposed to take care of these kids' lives, and we don't give them the tools and the resources they need to do it.
Well, we're setting everyone up for failure.
Everybody.
Where does so you've had this foundation for how many years now?
December 7th, 2015, we got our 501c3 status, but we didn't really get going strong until post-COVID because we were organizing. I had a full-time job doing something else. And then after, I was like, nothing's more important than these kids. Like, for me, I'm just like, this is my purpose for being on the planet. I need to do this. I need to not be caring about the full-time money. Like, no.
We talk about finding your purpose in life all the time on this podcast. So it's nice. And then everybody can see sometimes it just comes to you. But tell me where your funding comes from. Because it's got to be a problem. I know that there's so many agencies out there. There's so many, nonprofits and things like that. People don't even know where to give anymore or what's happening. So how do you get your funding to continue?
So we do have some foundation funding, which is really helpful. We have some corporate funding, which is helpful. And individual donors are great. I do find with funding, most of the funding comes through like a relationship with that someone that works at that corporation, or a relationship with a foundation. So the donor cultivation and development is a huge part of the whole nonprofit space. And that's hard because I just want to do the mission and I have to spend a lot of time on the fundraising. So individual donors are really, and corporate I think is most, and it's the most, and foundation funding, but the government grants are really tricky and hard, very, very, very hard. But we were recently advanced for some congressionally directed spending. So fingers crossed that we were teed up for that and we're advanced to the subcommittee. So hopefully that. So all the sources from individual donors. I mean, donors can go to our website and donate at halfamillionkids.org. I am thrilled to do individual meetings if people want more information rather than just like, oh, I'll make a donation. Like if people really want to get behind, say, the technology or the house parent model or specific or just our capacity building.
How do they do that?
They can get a hold of me on the website. Just send an email over halfamillionkids.org and say you want to talk. And I'm happy to share a full deck presentation, answer any questions. People are really have an opportunity, whether it's the two biggest things I think that help are funding obviously helps tremendously because we need to hire all the time. But the other thing is people spreading the word about these kids. So getting involved social media wise. Our Instagram was recently hacked, so we're relaunching that. But our Facebook is active. Our LinkedIn is active. I will admit we need to do a much better job at all of those things. But people can help by sharing what we're up to, who we are. That helps as much. So if you're not able to donate, but you want to help these kids, spreading the word, making them one of the cool causes by getting this discussion going is huge. And that's why I'm so appreciative of you highlighting this.
Well, I mean, there are so many things that really grab me and upset me. So I'm actually grateful to you that we found you to, tell us what the problem is. And I can't stand when somebody just wants to talk about the problem. I need to talk about the solution, just like you too.
Me too.
And you have done that. You're showing us that we can win this. We can make this better. We can do way better. These are all the. This is what we need to do. You're giving us the roadmap to do it. And I appreciate that very much. I mean, there are only a few things in life that really make me cry. And, children are one of them. I hate to think that we aren't taking care of them because I just,
it's heartbreaking.
It's something that it's unacceptable.
Particularly when there's solutions at hand. So the bureaucracy so what's different than, say, corporate is the children are wards of the state. They're under the control. So you have to work with the government to get the solutions in. It's not like you can be like, you know what? I don't want to work with the federal government because it's too difficult, and the bureaucracy, which is very difficult, and there is bureaucracy, but they control all the decisions related to these kids, so you have no choice. And I have a legacy, I hate to say play for some, whatever champion wants to get behind this, really saying, whether it's the First Lady, who's really for foster kids, whether it's Governor Shapiro in PA, because this is where our pilot program is, whether it's the city of Philadelphia, the mayor, city council, head of DHS, whoever, whether it's Secretary or whoever wants to champion, maybe it's Senator McCormick, whoever wants to be the champion to win this game, who takes on our plan, gets to say at the end of their tenure that they have sustainably course corrected the foster care system and set it on a path to get, and we're well on our way to getting 45% of foster children in safe, loving homes, blunting one of the major pipelines of child sex traffickers. Like, that is one heck of a legacy for someone to pick up that mantle, and we'll do all the work. The thing is, it doesn't pull like the economy and other things.
Yeah, and I get that. And I get that. I do. I mean, I had to be elected as well. But I do know the people of at least this Commonwealth, and I had good relationships with all the AGs in the other states. For the most part, people, yes. Are we worried about the economy? Sure, we are, because that's the grocery store prices we have to pay, and that's the fuel prices we have to pay. Of course we are. But there is no way that any of us would say that our grocery bill is more important than a child. There just isn't. So I appreciate everything that you are doing and your education for us, because it is incredible. We will also post your website on our website in an attempt to spread the word. And I really do encourage all of our listeners, because our listeners are awesome. They are dedicated. They are, very faithful to the causes, and they really want to learn and help out. And I love them for all of that. They're really engaged in our community, and I encourage them to also share even more. So Leah, we appreciate everything you're doing.
Oh, thank you. And people can also, if they want to follow what's happening, just go to our website and sign up for our newsletter, and you'll stay. And if it's okay, Kathleen, I want to put you on that list. Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to sign up myself. I almost did this morning, but I will certainly do that. All right. So here's my closing pitch to our viewers. We have a lot of requirements in our life. We do. We have a lot that people tell us we have to do, and we aren't required to take care of anyone else's child. I know that. But why on earth wouldn't we just want to? It's not a requirement. It's something in our heart and in our soul that I feel that no one would say no to. So I really am encouraging all of that. These kids did not do anything to deserve this life. They didn't ask to be brought into it, and they didn't ask to be shuffled around and thrown away and put into sexual trafficking. So I think anything that anyone can do would be an awesome help, big or small. If you can't afford any money, I get that. Just sign on and be a volunteer and just spread the word, just like Leah said. We appreciate that very much. I also just wanted to close with an amazing quote that you have on your website, Leah, and it's from Nelson Mandela. There can be no keener revelation of society's soul than the way in which it treats its children.
And Nelson Mandela was adopted, when an intern pointed out to me. Who knew?
Yes.
Yeah.
Incredible. Well, thank you
you.
very much. Thanks for another great episode of Through the HurriKane. Thanks everyone
Thank
for
you.
listening, and we'll see you
Thanks.
next time. Thanks for listening to Through the HurriKane. Please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time.